Rob should be playing twice as many minutes as he's playing. I mean, statistically speaking, with the production that he's putting up with that stat. So, again, I mean, I'm not saying Rob Williams is the savior, but he should be playing more.
So, Bobby, you explain this, okay? Because you represent kind of the faction of people out there who are like who don't take the bait. Well, no, who don't take the bait, so to speak, okay? You know, you have the Rob Williams overreactions, and many of them unwarranted, and maybe last year people were clamoring for more Rob when he wasn't ready. But every single thing about him this year says he's more ready. What, again, do you think the hesitation or reluctance is there to play? And again, we know, like, oh, it's not a great matchup for him. You know, having him disappear for an entire playoff series last year, that just makes no sense to me, given, again, the positives, I think, outweigh the negatives. Are you so afraid for what he's going to do defensively or the lapses that he's going to have that you can't figure out that there's like a, not you, but like what Brad or whatever can't figure out that, oh, there's some good and some bad, and I'll live with it, especially when the counter is Tristan Thompson, you know, I mean, which Thompson was fine tonight. But again, you look at those two guys, and I just don't understand how you would play one more minutes than the other.
Well, it's better than last year if we're going to compare it to that. There were games where Rob didn't play, period, last year. And now
which I don't get. I never got it. It's the same argument with Neesmith. He should have been playing 10, 15, 20 minutes every game last year.
Well, he's been better this year, and they found ways to get him involved this year on a consistent basis. We didn't like the way he was doing it with double bigs and all that stuff, and then eventually he got back to just finding Rob in rotation with the bench unit, and that works comfortably so far. We kind of had a similar conversation with Pritchard, too. Oh, why don't they start Pritchard? Why isn't he getting bumped up here? Well, they put him in a good spot to succeed against these bench units, and it worked again today with him and Rob. They just crushed second units with Tatum out there playmaking. So it's as much staggering them in the good portions of the game as anything else. And that's another thing I think Brad has done fairly well this year. I mean, all this criticism of him is putting guys in the right situational minutes to find success. I mean, if you threw Rob out there in a spot start today against Jokic, this probably would have gone much worse for Rob and the Celtics as a whole here. Thompson didn't have a great game, but he's a sturdy presence and had a okay performance against Jokic. I mean, even Anthony Davis wasn't stopping some of those shots.
Wait a second. Who had an okay performance?
I thought Thompson was okay here.
I mean, what do you determine okay?
All right, I mean, John, he's going against Nikola Jokic, who's third in the MVP race, and Rob gets to clean it up against Isaiah Hartenstein.
How much work? What could Jokic have done better in the first 15 minutes that he played tonight than he did? Like, is it possible for a human to play better? So nobody slowed him down. Nobody did okay. Like, he literally had a near perfect half. So
yeah, but my point is
not do pretty good on him.
That's not my point. My point is Thompson just went up and
I thought he was okay.
In the way, and then Rob got to play the secondary minutes and destroy Isaiah Hartenstein. If you put Rob against Jokic and Thompson just being a net neutral with Isaiah Hartenstein, it would have been a different game. You put Rob in a position where he can just destroy the opposing center in the bench unit, which I think is a smart way to handle this right now. Now, ultimately, as we talk about some of the changes on this team that they can make, you can get Tice out of here. You can get Thompson out of here, which I'm all for either one of those ideas at this point to get Rob more minutes, because I agree with you. He should be playing more minutes. I don't think he should be starting, and I feel the same way about Pritchard. We saw Pritchard struggle immensely in a spot start over the weekend against Detroit.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I've been saying the whole time, you don't need to start Pritchard. Once Marcus Smart comes back, just let Pritchard come off the bench. What he gives you off the bench is fine. Let's not rush him into something that he's not comfortable with, or he's just not there yet. You have a good thing. You have some depth coming off the bench. Keep it that way. They went with a 9-man rotation tonight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 9-man rotation. True 9-man rotation. When Smart comes back, I assume Green is out. So I mean, those are your 9, and then you got Tice. So I guess I don't know what you're going to do there, if there's still a trade to be made, or if they go to a 10-man. But finally, you didn't get like the 13, 14 guys that Brad's been, putting out there every game. And you're just like, why is Carson in the game? Why is, Teague, and, why are these players playing when you have a Neesmith and a Rob and a Pritchard and whoever else on the bench? So this just made more sense tonight. And I don't know if
Sunday's a great rotation
had anything to do with it. I don't know if Brad had to take a harder look at things, and maybe he spoke to some of his stars like Jason and Jalen, and maybe they said the same thing. Like, why are we playing 14 guys every game? Like, I don't know, but something was different tonight. I'm
Yeah,
not
I mean, I
saying
think Brad knew.
Jason Tatum didn't have a great game either, but I mean, something was different
Approach was
energy-wise.
different.
Yeah, I mean,
it was obvious from the get-go. They weren't set for shots early. They got into bad habits late, but in the beginning, it was great. The distribution, a ton of assists early. They did fall into that little trap where they started kind of just jacking him. Tatum had not a great stretch in the third where he was forcing a few shots. But for the most part, their approach, they clearly went in today and they're like, we got to distribute the ball more and play with higher energy. They did. And then Brad, as we said, shortened the bench a little. Josue, I cut you off. Jump in there.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that because I think they went into the approach was different because obviously what's been going on the last couple of games. Obviously, the pressure of, what Brad Stevens and what Danny Ainge said to the media, this was a big spot for them. And I think, to also piggyback on Jimmy's point about the second unit and Rob Williams, I think between him and Pritchard, those two could be the anchors right now. I don't know if that's going to be the case for the entire course of this regular season, but I like when those two are out there. I like to see Javonte out there as well. That energy coming in, off the bench, playing against, the second unit of the Nuggets. They outscored them in that first half, and it wasn't even close. And I just think that continuity is going to be so important because at the beginning of those stretches where the second unit has to come in and sort of hold the fort, and whether it's Jalen out there or a couple of other starters out there, those three are going to be really important, or at least between Pritchard and Robert Williams. I look for those two to anchor the second unit. And I don't.
Rob's been fantastic.
That's most beneficial for him instead of starting. He's better in that role.
And to go off what I was saying before about Rob, there were minutes in this game where he had to rotate against Jokic, and I saw one of the commenters said as well he did a good job. There was one play where the Nuggets kind of got screwed on a foul call. He was rolling toward the basket, and they called it on the floor. Rob got right back in the lane and forced a turnover there. The steals, the fourth quarter rebound, and Jokic was out of gas in the fourth, and that's when Rob really took it to him on the boards. There was a triple chance opportunity that the Nuggets had that they couldn't convert because Rob was in there holding in the space in the middle. I don't think Rob's stronger end of the floor has been defense this year, but this was a good defensive game from him and the team.
Again, he is what he is in that regard. He's a good help side defender, and he's a deterrent in the rim there. And he's got active hands. So I mean,
awesome rebounder too. I can't believe how good he's gotten at that.
Rebounding is great. He just gets up quick and he gets the ball. So I mean, he does so many things well. I do think you're right. That pool of what he doesn't do well is shrinking to the point that it doesn't. I'm not concerned anymore. And you're right, Bobby. It's different than last year. We talked about, this series isn't for Rob, but to not play this series isn't for Cantor. Just to have these guys disappear for an entire series at a time is strange. Like, are you that afraid? Right.
We've had this conversation, but the center position this year, it's not much better, but it's better overall.
Well, speaking of it, Daniel Tice obviously didn't play tonight. Celtics win the game. We're talking about Rob. We're talking about Thompson holding his own. To the Celtics, is Tice an expendable player? Because he is a guy that is tradable, and there don't seem to be many of them on the Celtics if they are looking to make some sort of move.
Well, he's tradable because he's cheap and he's on an expiring.
Right, and he's playing a position where they have other players that can play the position.
I think
he's valuable too.
He rounds out a trade. He might be more valuable to you than he is to someone else. To someone else, I think it's a throw-in on a deal because you're trading him to someone that doesn't need him, nor do they want him. So he doesn't have really value to anyone else.
Yeah.
To anyone else, he's $5 million. That's it. Because he's expiring, and that's it. You're just rounding out a deal. You're trading him to a team that's out of it. So he doesn't have value because you're not trading him to someone who wants him.
Tice gets talked about on the show like
you barely have any players that can. But
it's not that he's not good.
The trade needs.
If he's in a trade, he doesn't have value because you're acquiring him.
There's no team in the NBA. If they trade him right now for PJ Tucker, which is an idea I floated before, the Rockets would be absolutely thrilled about that. It would solve their center issues right now that they're going through. They would keep him long term as their backup center. You might be able
to trade strength for strength there. You might be able to do that.
He's valuable. He's a good player. I mean, this guy, I'm not saying he's Al Jefferson 2008, but he's
I was thinking
a good
rolling
player.
It up for a bigger – and to me, that would be a team that's out of it. But you're right. You could trade strength for another competitive team that needs something that they don't have. Yeah.
Yeah, so I ultimately think that Tice does need to go, just because I think he's going to be more valuable than what they're able to keep here. And they're going to have to think about Rob Williams' extension possibly at some point down the line. So Tice just doesn't factor into the future here. Even though I love him, even though he's been a great player here for a couple of years, I think he's going to have to be involved in some sort of deal here, just to give another team a piece that they would want, and to clear out the center spot a little bit here, especially if they actually do end up going with a center or front court player like Thad Young or Vucevic here. They're going to need to kind of trade out some pieces to keep some spots open here. So I think Tice, it's tough, because I would love to keep Tice around and have him be the starter. He's been the best center on the team this year, but he's not going to be around. So it would just be kind of stupid to keep him and have him be another bench guy who just leaves for nothing at the end of the year.
A lot of people are saying trade Thompson. I don't know if you can trade Thompson right now, dude.
I've said that too, but I've talked to a handful of people who think you can. $9 million's not that much, so
it's not. It's a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, so he would be part. I think what you mentioned.
It's another
John,
thing, though. Nobody really wants him or needs him, right? I mean, it's similar to
he'd just be money in a deal. So the Celtics have a hard cap situation. So even though they can take in up to $28 million in a TPE deal, they can't actually get there. I think it's like 20 million, John, last time we talked about this.
It's 20 is what the Celtics can use of that 28, essentially.
Yeah, so if they could send out 9 of Thompson there,
so you got to send it.
You got it
right to get the 26. Like a Vucevic, for example, is 26. To get that and fit it in under a hard cap, you'd have to trade something else in.
Yeah.
Right. But you could do it with Tyson another body, because Tyson is 5 plus another 1 or 2. So you could find a way. You find a way to make it work if you're going to do it. The TPE is the bulk of it, and you're going to move bodies in addition. Before we move on to that stuff, because we're going to get there for sure. What do you guys think of Tatum tonight? Because we did find out before the game in his and Bobby, you were in the